So you want to refactor your Django app. That's great. Let's move some forms, some models out of one app and into another. What happens when you move a Django model though? What happens with the migrations and with your production data? Hi, I'm Ben Lopatin with Welfare Interactive, the Django experts for the Django site you already have. Today I want to talk to you about some strategies for moving Django models from one app to another. We're going to look at a little toy project here, and that's a dog log. It's based on a little app I made for myself, and what I want to do is show you how we're going to move some models around in this app. So this project has one app here, dogs, and we've got 5 models. We've got activity, breed, category, dog, and reminders. What we want to do is separate these out so that we have a bunch of models about the dogs and then models about the reminders and activities. And real quick, I just want to show you there is some data here. We have categories of breeds. We have a few breeds in there, and then we have a few dogs as well. Okay, so these are all kind of connected together, and then some reminders, just a couple reminders in here. So what we want to do is move eventually activity and reminder to their own app. So we're looking at the initial code here, and what we want to do is move these models to their own app. And we have a little app here, reminders. When you move models, what we're going to do is need to create new migrations. Now, the problem is that when you create a new migration, moving a model from one app to another, the Django migration system is going to want to drop that model. And so we're going to show that, but what I want to first show you is that we want to make sure that no matter what, the table names stay consistent. So for moving, and you know this, when you create a new model and you don't define the table name, Django gives it a table name. It assigns it one by the app and the model name. So if we take a quick look, you'll notice we have dogs reminder, dogs dog, dogs category, dogs breed, and dogs activity. And you can see here that we do have that data here. Now, this is again toy data, but let's assume this is not toy data, it's production data. We don't want to drop this data when we move the model. So we want to make sure the table names are the same. Yes, we can rename the tables, but we want to make this a really discrete set of steps. So first, how do we do this? Well, we need to make sure that we define the table name on our models. All right, I didn't type this here, but you can see the addition is that we've added in the DB table to all of these models. And you'll see there's a new migration here, and it's going to alter the table, and nothing will actually happen when we run this because the table name is, that's the table name these models already have. What we're just doing is making it explicit. Okay, let's move the models now. Well, they're not here. We can see the models are right where we'd like them. They are in the reminders app, and they reference areas. The reference right models here. And if we look here, the migration, it's removing the fields and deleting the models. And in the reminders app, it's going to be creating models. Let's see here. That's not good, because what that's going to do is actually drop all of our data. Now, I'm not sure I believe me, so I'm going to run this. All right, great. The table names are the same, so really nothing should have happened, right? Now let's look here. We have the same dogs. Sure, I load this all. Tables are all there. Oh, but my data for the reminders is gone because the table was dropped and re-added. The schema, what I ended up with is exactly what we started with, but in order to get there, we had to delete the table and add everything else. That's not what I want to happen. Now, the solution here is to run your migration command with the fake option. That works. What that'll do is make sure the migration state results in that final state, that you add these entries to the migration table so that the system doesn't need to run these anymore, and it won't actually execute any SQL on the server. That works. Nothing will change, and your data will stay exactly where it is. The problem is that this is a manual step. If you are running any of your deployment manually, which the first question is why, but if you are, you need to remember to do this. And hey, simple little app, maybe that'll probably work. But if you have an automated deployment, then you need to have some more complex system here that's going to know, okay, to check, do you have sort of flags set up to know that these migrations need to be run with a fake command? I don't really like that. It's not fail-safe. There's too much room for error. I don't like we have to remember to do certain things. So what we want to do is basically create a migration system here that runs without actually doing anything, without any extra input from the user. All right, let's see how that's done. First, what we're going to do is look here at this migration. You see, the only thing I've changed in this migration file is the base. So we are inheriting, instead of from Django migrations, from a different module here called neutered, and we've adapted the the migration class itself is inheriting from a new migration class, and all the and so are all of the operations. So the reason we're doing this is that the operations are actually where the query is run, and this is where there's work done. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to have a new operation, and we've got it right here with database forwards and database backwards. There's nothing there. These don't do anything. What we want to do is we want this to run, and so that we'll still have the state built, but when you actually execute with the database forwards and database backwards, nothing happens. So let's run this migration and see what happens. All right, we've added table names, removed reminder emails, and now we've got the reminders here. It's still here. So we ran the migration successfully, didn't need to add a fake flag. You could run this every time. You could give it to anyone. You could run on any server without any extra configuration, and this will always run in place. And we can, see, no migrations detected. The state we've got the state we wanted, and we're not actually executing anything else. So that's how you move Django models. Well, that is one way of moving Django models in such a way that you don't have to worry about what happens to your production data. For most people, it's pretty important. If you don't care about your data, then that doesn't matter. And if you're working with empty tables, again, it doesn't matter. I mentioned renaming tables. I would definitely do that as the next step with caveats. The benefits to renaming your database tables is that it will match the model and app names. This is really helpful if you're looking through the database table and you don't want to have a complex mental map of table names to models. The reasons you wouldn't want to do this, though, is if you have references to these table names elsewhere outside of your application. Maybe you've got some functions defined that reference table names in your database, or you have outside queries somewhere. You can go and update those as well, but that's an extra step. So at the very least, you want to be more cautious about renaming your database table and make sure that you do this in coordination with anybody else who is using these scripts or queries that reference your database table. But again, if you don't have to worry about those, definitely add a new step. You can do that by just modifying the table name in the meta options and create a new migration, and it will create a query, run a query that will just run the altered table query on that table, and it will then match what's in your Django app.